Hey gardeners, Amy here. Today is a unusually warm day for mid-February. Our snow has kind of melted a little bit and it's in the 40s, but we're going to get dumped on with snow next week. So I thought I'd just take a little bit of time and tidy up my yard a little bit. Last fall was probably the most unusual one I have ever experienced, in that everything weather-wise was 2 weeks late, right up until like the 3rd of November when winter arrived. And we usually get, an early snow that shuts us down for a week, but it usually melts and then we do fall cleanups and we move on with life. But last year the leaves were still on the trees and then the snow never melted. So we never got fall cleanups done. We scrambled and managed to get all the roses covered, except I forgot to cover mine. Whoops. But I got all my clients done, and those were the important ones. So I got my clients' roses covered, but that was pretty much it. We shut down and we were never able to open again. So my yard is a mess. A lot of my clients' yards are messes, and it's driving me nuts, and I kind of want to do something about it. But I also don't want to disturb pollinators too much. I'm thinking this weird winter is actually kind of a blessing for the insects. So I want to see what I can do to tidy up my yard to my liking while disturbing as little as actually possible. So I'm just going to kind of putter around my yard and do a thing here and there, and I'll tell you what I'm doing and why. And if you have time to get out there this weekend, maybe you can do it too before we get dumped on and buried again next week. So for starters, when it's cold out, I always put my latex glove inside my gardening glove to keep my hands warm, because it works. My hands stay warm and dry. My main goal for today, really, the thing that's been driving me the most crazy, is that the leaves from my cherry tree have completely buried my hellebores. And they're supposed to be blooming soon, but if they're completely buried, then they can't even photosynthesize. So I want to move the leaves off of my hellebores. Most of the time, these leaves have been frozen to the ground, and they're just completely covering everything. So I'm just going to take my expandable rake and just gently uncover the evergreen plants. Okay, I've got, that's a lamium, not as important. And then I've got some heucheras here, same thing. They're probably fine to stay covered, like I usually cover those in the winter anyway. I usually cover the heucheras with pine needles. And I do that because a few years ago, whatever the winter did that year, and I don't remember what it was just super cold with no snow cover, I think. It killed so many heucheras. We had this mass die-off of heucheras, so now I cover them. Didn't get to that this year. So the leaves are probably keeping them nice and insulated, but I think I will bring some pine needles over here just to cover those up. But yeah, mostly I want to see my pretty hellebores if they do bloom. This is their first year in the ground, so I don't know if they will bloom or not. But if they do, I don't want to miss it. And then back here is usually where I store all of my perennials that are just in pots that I didn't get in the ground before winter. But they're still in the pots. I never got them put away. Again, we just got buried before I had time to do anything. So I'm going to put those away. I thought about maybe planting some, but that's not going to happen today. It's too cold. Ground's still pretty frozen. I've got a whole bunch of natives and drought-tolerant plants that I never put away. Polemonium. Right here. A whole bunch of stuff. This stuff was not healthy enough to send to a client, but it wasn't dead, so I thought maybe I'll nurse it back to health in my yard. Well, it's probably dead now, but I don't know. Find out. There we go. These were all daylilies that I had dug up and divided from my yard. A lot of them I had rehomed, but some I hadn't gotten that far yet. Ooh! This one's coming back. There's some green in there. I have a bunch of bags of pine needles that we collected but never ended up using. This is how I usually overwinter my stuff. I'm not going to go too crazy with pine needles here because most of these are natives, which are going to be just fine, perfectly hardy to our area. But because they're still in pots, their roots aren't really protected from the cold coming at them from the side. So I still want to give them some protection, just to try to mimic a little bit what they would actually get in nature. So this is a gaura that I bought it as an annual. I covered the heck out of it with pine needles its first winter, and it actually came back, and I was so excited. But again, this winter took me by surprise, and I didn't get this covered. So I'm not sure if it's going to be back or not. I have a whole bunch of them around my yard. But it's a zone 6. But they're just not usually hardy here. And I don't see much yet, but you know, I'm kind of hoping it'll be back. So I'm going to leave the leaves on this. I'm also going to probably grab some pine needles and cover it with pine needles. It and all the other ones. And hopefully, cross my fingers, maybe this one will come back. Alright, let's see, what else? I never even got my hoses picked up! It's not like I was distracted by other things or anything, you know. Oh look, she's awake. I'm okay.
Fingers. There it is.
Come on.
Here it is.
Oh. I need a broom. Mess. Alright, so I'm just going to walk around and kind of take inventory of what's going on. I think my corkscrew grass probably wants to photosynthesize more. But this one is a new one for me, and I'm not really sure what to expect with this. The stuff that was under the leaves is actually greener than the stuff that was on top, so I'm thinking it actually wants the cover, and I'm going to go ahead and keep this covered. So I'll go ahead and bury that one. Ooh! Oh, I forget which shrub this is. It's the brand new one. I just put it here, and it's got buds coming on it. Spring is coming! Yay! The snow was so heavy, it just flattened everything. Like some of my perennials over there are just stuck to the ground. This was my euphorbia. Oh, it's still got a little bit of life left to it, but it prefers to be covered in the winter, so I'm going to cover these. This is my other one. This was a baby from this one. So I'm going to cover those with needles. The bee balm, it's fine. This is all herbaceous. It's died back like underneath the ground. It's fine, but oh my goodness. But these are the seeds. And those the birds might be eating, so I'm just going to leave that up. My oriental lilies, these are pithy stems, so I've left all the stems that I've left long on purpose was so that insects can get in there and do their life cycles. I don't think they do that with Asian plants, which is what most lilies are. This is a type of penstemon, and it's just been flat on the ground, but it's probably fine to be covered. Well, so this shrub is my new blue star that I got from Diane's nursery, and it's got some green under here, but I just realized that's actually a foxglove. All my foxglove seedlings are green still. Flat. Everything's so flat. It's so weird. I don't even remember what that one is. It's flat. Okay, so this I will uncover because underneath, what's going on underneath here is a whole bunch of mold is growing. You see the fuzz under here, there's actually a whole bunch of mold that's been growing underneath the leaves, which is why I prefer pine needles over leaves when it comes to winter covers. Leaves do tend to rot, and they tend to do things like this where they allow mold to grow. Because you look at this is a completely impervious layer to water and air. So underneath here is going to be, it's going to trap moisture, it's going to be dark, and it's going to be cool, but not cold. And so that's the perfect environment for mold. So I'm going to rake all that off of this plant. Just using my expandable rake, very gently, giving it kind of a hairbrush, that's all. Just a little brush just to get all the leaves separated. The expandable rake is excellent for this because it stabs the leaves and pulls them, but it doesn't do much damage to the plants. So it's wonderfully gentle on my plants. There we go. Okay. I'll come back and cover this plant with some pine needles, but not leaves. Alright, what else? This is fine. Yucca, and it's fine. This is another penstemon, and the stem broke. It's a shame, but it'll come back from the base. This is another blue star, completely flattened by the weight of the snow. Right over there. Ooh, this is interesting. This is our native sage. Again, I got from Diane at Desert Jewels. And underneath where the leaves were is still quite green. Down under there. So I think it likes being covered. And I think we're going to cover it again, but I also see some mold, so I'm going to cover that with needles, not leaves. Oh, this was a yarrow. Yeah, what was covered is still green, and uncovered is brown and dead. This is a really interesting little experiment here. Oh, this was a poppy. This was that pink poppy that I don't even remember planting, but it's here. Okay. And then these, I think, are Oh, this was my aster. That's an herbaceous one, so the top is going to completely die back and it'll come back from the base. Over here, this was a really nice rose. Yeah, I saw some damage. A couple of branches are broken, but that'll all get pruned off in the spring. We do our hard prune. And the rest of this is mostly iris, snapdragons. There's a liatris and a lupin over there somewhere. Go ahead and let the corkscrew grass be covered. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is actually rake the yard because the leaves on the grass will kill the grass. So I want to get the leaves off the grass. And I'm just going to rake them in the flower bed. Hopefully that helps the pollinators and it also insulates the garden. So that's what's next. I'm not going to use my expandable rake for that because this against grass will get destroyed. I have the other rake for that purpose. So I'm noticing one other thing as I rake, and that is I didn't also get the chance to mow low before winter either. So my grass is super long, which is also causing this. This here is pink snow mold, okay? And snow mold happens when you have long grass that gets buried under the snow for, months at a time, and it's dark and moist and cool and just all the things that mold and fungi love. So the way to counteract snow mold is just to rake it. I already have videos on snow mold, and I'll put one of them up here or somewhere. So you can watch that if you want. But pretty much if you just rake it, it goes away on its own. Holy crap, this is long. And I'm not too worried about putting it in the garden. It's not a pathogen that affects anything but grass. So I'm not worried about my plants with this particular mold, and even if it did affect the plants, it only lives in the winter. So I'm not worried about it over there. But usually what I do before winter is mow my grass super low so that we don't have snow mold getting started in the first place. But no worries, it doesn't really hurt anything. Like I said, it goes away on its own really quick. So as soon as you give it a good rake and the sun comes out in the spring. Okay, you can have it there. Yay, done. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this, remember to hit like and subscribe and all the things, and I hope you have a good weekend. Get some gardening work done before the snow comes next week and it gets cold again. So in the meantime, guys, stay warm this winter. I'll see you in the garden.